If you drive at night, alone, on an empty road, you need to hear this before you do it again. Because every single person in these 4 stories thought they were safe. They thought they knew the road. They thought nothing could go wrong on a stretch of highway they'd driven 100 times before. They were wrong. And by the end of this video, you're going to think twice before you ever pull over for a stranger, use a gas station bathroom alone, or stop at a rest area past midnight. Let's get into it. Story 1. The Man in Aisle 4. This one happened to a guy who lives out in the sticks, the kind of place where the nearest anything is a solid 20-minute drive. There's a gas station near him that's the only place open around the clock, and because his sleep schedule is a disaster, he ends up there more often than he'd like to admit. He's a programmer, and like a lot of programmers, his brain doesn't really wake up until everyone else's is shutting down. Midnight rolls around, and he's finally locked into his best work, deep in that zone you only get a few times a week if you're lucky. But there's a catch to working like that. You forget to eat, and then all at once, you're starving. So around 2 in the morning, he shuts the laptop and drives out to grab something. The road there is quiet, practically abandoned, which is normal for that hour. He gets to the store, orders a sandwich from the counter, and wanders the aisles while he waits, too wired on caffeine to just stand still. That's when he sees him. At the far end of an aisle, facing one of the refrigerator doors, there's a man sitting cross-legged on the floor. Not standing, not crouching. Sitting, like he's having a conversation with the refrigerator. Our guy does a double take, convinced he imagined it. He didn't. Curiosity gets the better of him, so he loops around to get a look at the guy's face. Big mistake. The second he turns the corner, the man on the floor snaps his head around and locks eyes with him. And what he sees isn't just a weird guy sitting on the floor. He sees pupils blown way too wide, a jaw trembling like he's freezing in a store that's actually warm, and a posture twisted up like his body is fighting itself. But the worst part is the stare. No expression, nothing behind the eyes, just blank. If you've ever locked eyes with someone and immediately known something was wrong with them, drop a comment below because it's about to get so much worse. He backs off, grabs his food, and gets out of there as fast as he can without running. As he's pulling back onto the highway, he catches movement in his mirror. It's the man from the store, sprinting across the parking lot toward a truck. He tells himself it's not his problem and drives on. A few minutes of dark, empty road pass. Then he notices headlights behind him, closing in fast. Too fast for a random driver at 2 in the morning on a dead road. He assumes cop. He slows down. The lights keep coming. It's not a cop. It's the same truck from the parking lot. What follows is 5 straight minutes of pure survival mode. The truck rides his bumper, flashes its brights, lays on the horn. He guns it, hits triple digits trying to put distance between them, and the truck matches him the entire way. When he finally lets off the gas, hoping the guy will pass, the truck slams into his rear bumper. He's fighting the wheel just to stay on the road. One more hit at that speed, and it's over. So he does the only thing he can think of. He cuts hard left and stomps the brakes. The truck shoots past him, overcorrects, fishtails across 2 lanes, and launches off the shoulder into a field. He drove straight home, hands shaking on the wheel the entire way, and called the police the second he walked through the door. The station has cameras in the lot. He's confident they'll identify the guy eventually. It's been a week, still no word. And he still has no idea why he was targeted. Story 2. The Hitchhiker Who Wasn't Alone. Our next storyteller had one of those jobs you don't hear about much anymore, running electronics and computer parts for a delivery company trying to compete with the big guys in places the big guys wouldn't bother going. Long routes, weird hours, sometimes 12 hours behind the wheel through the kind of towns that don't show up on a map. Before we go further, if you're the kind of person who actually stops for stranded drivers at night, stick around, because this story might change your mind. And hit that subscribe button, because story 3 is even worse. 1 a.m., deep into a run through southern New Mexico, cutting through a stretch of two-lane highway that borders a national forest. This road is so isolated that the GPS detour to avoid it adds 2 full hours to the trip. Meaning, if you're out there because you have no other choice. Rounding a bend, his headlights catch a red hatchback pulled onto the shoulder, hazards blinking, and a woman standing beside it waving her phone in the air like she's hunting for signal. Every instinct told him to keep driving. But he thought about his own sister, his own girlfriend, stuck on some dark road somewhere. And he thought about the pistol holstered under his steering column that he wasn't technically supposed to have, but carried anyway given where his roots took him. So he slowed down and cracked the window. She rushed the door, tried the handle, found it locked. Said her car died, said she needed a ride to the nearest station. Said it in this jittery, slurred way that made him wonder if she was drunk, or high, or something else entirely. Against his better judgment, he let her in. She wouldn't answer a single straight question. What happened to the car? Why the engine cut out? Nothing but, just drive, just drive. He was seconds from telling her to get out when he glanced back at her hatchback one more time and saw a man step out from behind it. Someone who had been hiding there the entire time. Then he looked forward and saw a second man standing directly in the road ahead, holding something long, maybe a bat, maybe a pipe. He floored it. The woman spun around, screaming, and started digging through her bag for something. He had a pretty good guess what. So he drew the gun, rested it on the wheel where she could see it, and told her to freeze. She did. She didn't say another word for the rest of the drive. 30 minutes later, he pulled into a gas station, forced her out of the truck, and left before anyone could ask questions he didn't want to answer. When he checked the passenger seat afterward, wedged between the cushions, he found a burner phone battery and a sealed pack of zip ties. He never reported it. Not to the cops, not to his company. He'll let you connect those dots yourself. But he'll tell you this much. Carrying that night probably saved his life. Story 3. The Woman Who Wouldn't Leave. This next one comes from a woman driving cross-country with her husband, cutting through the emptiest stretch of western Kansas, 100 miles of nothing but farmland on either side of the highway. She'd been asleep for hours when her husband pulled into a tiny gas station to fill up and grab snacks. She got out to use the bathroom, leaving her phone and purse in the car because she figured she'd be in and out in 2 minutes. She wasn't. Walking into the restroom, she nearly collided with a woman coming out of one of the stalls, and something about her stopped her cold. Matted gray hair, foam flip-flops slapping against the floor, and, despite the fact that it was 80 degrees out in the middle of summer, a thick, heavy winter coat. If a stranger has ever stared at you like they were waiting for you to do something and you had no idea what, tell me in the comments, because that's exactly what happened next. The woman just stared. Not a passing glance, a locked-on, expectant stare, like she was waiting for a cue. Our storyteller nodded politely and tried to step around her, but the woman didn't move to let her by. Then, instead of leaving, the woman followed her further into the bathroom and stood at the sink, not running the water, not looking in the mirror, just standing there. Unsettled, she ducked into a stall and locked it, immediately regretting leaving her phone behind. She heard the flip-flops shuffle toward the exit, heard the door open and slam shut, and then she realized she could still hear breathing, not her own. The woman had faked leaving. She was still in there, silent, waiting somewhere near the door. Our storyteller sat frozen, holding her own breath, terrified of being heard. Eventually, the door opened and closed again, and the breathing stopped. Relief flooded in, until, just as she was about to unlock the stall, she heard a sharp gasp, like someone had been holding their breath the whole time, followed by the door again. She had faked leaving twice. When she finally worked up the nerve to step out, the bathroom was empty. She waited for a stranger to finish checking out at the register and used him as cover to slip outside. And there the woman was again, standing off to the side of the entrance, glaring, holding something that looked unmistakably like a knife, crouched like she was about to spring. Instead, the woman turned and disappeared around the back of the building. Our storyteller sprinted to the car and didn't explain a word until they were back on the highway. She hasn't used a roadside bathroom alone since. Story 4. The Van at the Rest Stop. Our final storyteller spent his 20s delivering auto parts across the Midwest for a small logistics outfit. Easy work most nights, until the night that made him swear off rest stops after dark for good. Mid-January, freezing, driving east on the interstate from Des Moines toward Davenport around 10:30 at night. Exhaustion hit him hard enough that he pulled off at a rest area to stretch his legs. The lot was nearly empty, just his truck and one other vehicle, an old white cargo van parked off in the dark with its lights off. Inside the restroom, he splashed cold water on his face and, for a second, thought he heard the door open behind him. He turned. No one there. Real quick, if you've ever felt like someone was in a room with you and turned around to find it empty, hit that like button right now, because this story is about to explain exactly why that feeling exists. Back outside, something had changed. The van's headlights were on now. Engine off, lights on, though he never heard it start. He got a bad feeling and got moving fast. Back on the highway, the lights shut off behind him just as suddenly as they'd come on. 5 minutes of nothing. Then, in his mirror, 2 dots of light closing in fast. The same van. It rode up beside him, matched his speed exactly, and the driver rolled his window down halfway, motioning for our guy to do the same and pointing at his empty truck bed like something was wrong back there. There was nothing back there. Nothing at all. He ignored the gesturing. The van dropped back, then surged forward, cutting him off before suddenly veering onto the shoulder and stopping dead. He flew past, heart hammering, pushing 90 just to put distance between them. Minutes later, the van reappeared in his mirror, and it stayed with him for the next 20 miles, fading back, then closing in, over and over. He took the next exit toward a truck stop, parked directly under the brightest light he could find near the pumps, and walked straight into the diner. He told the woman behind the counter what had happened, and she flagged down a trucker at the bar, a big guy in a flannel shirt who walked outside without hesitation. The van was already in the lot, engine idling, facing our guy's truck. The trucker walked over, said something nobody else could hear, and the van peeled out of the lot and disappeared onto the highway. When the trucker came back, he said there were 2 men inside, hoods up, both staring straight ahead without saying a single word. He stayed in that diner for almost an hour before continuing on. When he checked his truck later that night, everything was intact, except for 2 smudges on the tailgate, like someone had tried to get it open with dirty hands. He quit that job a few months later. Now, he never drives long distance without filling up before dark, and he never stops anywhere that isn't lit up and crowded. Closing. 4 different people, 4 different states, 4 completely different nights. But the same lesson runs through every single one of them. The road doesn't warn you before it turns dangerous. One second you're just trying to get home, and the next, you're fighting for your life against someone you've never met and will probably never understand. If this video kept you on edge, that's exactly what it was supposed to do. So do me a favor and subscribe, because there are hundreds of stories just like these waiting for you, and you do not want to miss the next one. Stay safe out there, lock your doors, and maybe think twice the next time you see headlights behind you on an empty road.